Please note, for the following concepts, practicing these techniques can be dangerous and you shouldn't practice alone or without supervision from an experienced river rescuer who can help keep you safe and coach you along. Swimming in whitewater is a key skill to practice and develop. One of the most important things to know about swimming in the river is to avoid foot entrapment. If you try to stand up and you get unlucky and get your foot jammed between rocks, the current can push you over and you can very quickly become entrapped underwater. When you're swimming in the river, to avoid foot entrapment and also to avoid hitting your head and face on rocks, you can use one of a few positions. The default position is the whitewater flotation position. With your feet out in front of you, you can see where you're going, push off of obstacles above the surface with your feet, and steer with your arms. We can also swim more aggressively in the river in order to get around and get ourselves to shore. The most common techniques to swim aggressively are heads up front crawl on your stomach and back crawl on your back. Swimming on your front is powerful and works well to cross the river and swim into eddies. Back crawl is good to be able to see far downstream, and also you're less exposed to the river bottom. As you become a more confident swimmer in whitewater, you can combine all of these techniques along with more advanced moves to get all around the river, just like you can move around in a boat. Obviously, there are times when a boat is going to be better for getting around, but for some rescues, swimming is actually the most effective technique, and ultimately for your own safety, being able to swim to shore is key. One of the core components of any whitewater rescue course should be swimming, and even if you aren't the strongest swimmer, good technique and understanding will allow you to make good decisions to keep yourself and others safe. Next concept, special swimming situations. We're going to talk about shallow water, big waves, and swimming over ledges and drops. For swimming over shallow sections, the key is to stay flat on the surface and be loose. If you're rigid and your butt is hanging low, you'll painfully hit rocks. If you're loose and flat on the surface, you can float over very shallow sections with much less chance of hitting anything. If you find yourself swimming through big waves, knowing where to breathe can make all the difference in the world. Breathe in the trough. When you're down in the trough, you'll be floating above the surface and you could take a breath. At the top of the wave, you don't actually go over it, you go through it, and your face is either in the water or getting splashed. Trying to take a breath there isn't a good idea. Instead, at the top of the wave, close your mouth, hold your breath, and you could take another breath when you're in the next trough. Lastly, swimming over ledges, drops, and waterfalls isn't something you can safely practice, so we don't recommend trying this. However, if you're in a real situation, you find yourself about to go over a drop, ball up. If your feet are dangling in front of you, as you go over the drop, you'll end up vertical, exposing your feet and legs to entrapment. Obviously, being entrapped at the bottom of a waterfall while also being in current and in a section of river that's hard for rescuers to access puts you in a very tough position to be rescued out of. So ball up by bringing your knees to your chest. Next concept is practice, practice, practice. Just like any physical skill, you can't get good at swimming or other safety skills by reading about them in a book or watching a video. In a situation where you have a lot of adrenaline, you won't be able to think logically. This is when muscle memory will kick in. If you've practiced these skills repeatedly, they'll feel natural and you'll be able to perform when you need to. Also, practice will increase your comfort and things won't feel like they're happening fast. And also you'll be able to try to calm yourself down and get into a better mindset for effective action, rather than freezing or flailing. For those of you leading groups, this is why doing a swim through in a mellow bit of current at the start of a trip with beginners will go a long way towards preventing problems like foot entrapment. You can tell people over and over not to stand up, but until they've practiced, they probably won't do the right thing and keep their feet up if they find themselves swimming.